During Chapter 8 of Crimson Desert, you'll finally be able to control Damiane again for the first time since the start of Chapter 5. While her gameplay style may be a welcome change of pace for some, you likely won't have been paying much attention to her skill tree or equipment before this moment. And then, you're required to fight a really tough boss. We've tackled this ourselves and come back from the battlefield with tips for what gear to equip and which skills to unlock to make it through the Bastier boss fight as Damiane in Crimson Desert. After you fight Caliburn as Cliff, you'll be automatically sent over to Damiane and given control of her. We're going to suggest that you take the time now to find some gear and skill points so that you can get her closer to the power level of Cliff, as the difficulty of the enemies is not scaled down for Damiane. Unfortunately, if you've been mainlining the story, you probably won't have found that much armor for Damiane. If you have, then great, use that. If not, you may choose to upgrade what she's already wearing for some increased defense, but I proceeded without upgrading her armor at all due to what I had on hand at the time, and the fight wasn't too punishing. As for her rapier and shield, this equipment is fairly lightweight and it can take a lot of resources to get them close to the gear levels required. So it might be worth raiding your inventory or private storage chest to see if you have other weapons that she can equip instead. For example, I used the Ignea longsword, which you unlock during the main story, as it was somewhat upgraded already and nearly 10 attack points stronger than Damiane's rapier, saving me a bunch of upgrade resources. Just keep in mind that this will change her moveset somewhat. A brief warning while we're here, one of our guide riders had difficulty accessing their storage in this section of the game, as there was a Greymane mission for Cliff right next to the tent at camp where the chest is located, which automatically turned Damiane away because, quote, "this is Cliff's story." If you have this issue and it hasn't been long since you changed characters, you may be able to load a checkpoint from before Cliff's fight with Caliburn in order to either clear the mission marker at the camp, or put some things in your inventory or storage for Damiane to equip later. The biggest gap between Cliff and Damiane that you're likely to notice will come down to skill point imbalance. The core stat nodes in the skill tree are common across all the characters, so their health, stamina, and spirit meters will be the same, but basically everything else is leveled separately. You can quickly get a bunch of skill points for Damiane by using a Faded Abyss artifact in order to reset everyone's skill trees, and then redistribute those points into Damiane's skills instead. If you don't want to lose your skill tree progress with Cliff and Unka, you can try to earn skill points by playing the game normally. Just be warned, we're going to suggest using more than a dozen points to tip the scales back in your favor, and that could take a while to earn without resetting the board. There are two types of combat to keep in mind when applying points: engaging in regular infantry combat and taking on a difficult boss. Many of the grappling attacks and advanced movement abilities at Damiane's disposal are excellent for a big group fight, but not for a one-on-one duel. If you're just trying to blast through this section of the game and get back to Cliff as fast as possible, know that you don't technically need to fight many regular enemies. With this in mind, you may want to save points that you might have put into grappling and put them into these following recommendations instead. The best skills you can level up for a boss fight are your regular weapon abilities. Putting skill points into armed combat, or your R2 skill, called Celestial Strike for longswords, will make all of your normal attacks deal significantly more damage. So we maxed out both of these nodes. We also maxed out the Smiting Strike ability, which is the R1 plus R2 charge attack, as this added extra swings to the combo, plus made the attack ignore super armor while giving us some of our own. The only downside of this skill is you can't use it repeatedly due to the spirit cost involved. The key ability that turned the tide of this fight for me was Holy Explosion. This is Damiane's R1 plus X combo when using the longsword, and it strikes an enemy twice. Once when the sword connects, and again when a bolt of energy strikes. You can upgrade it to include a follow-up strike, although it is pretty potent at its default skill level 2. If you did reset your skill tree, make sure to reapply your Abyss artifacts for your core stats that we mentioned earlier. We went in with 7 levels of health, 4 levels of stamina, and 3 levels of spirit, although I would have welcomed an extra level or 2 of spirit in hindsight. We then had a bunch of spare stats, so feel free to apply these wherever you want, or save the extra points to go back into Cliff's skill tree once you get control of him later. The final thing you need to do to prepare for this fight is to make sure you've got plenty of food on you for healing. My method for doing this is to buy out the Hernand Grocer's stock, then buy out the Hernand Butcher's stock, and then I use the nearby cooking pot to make as many healing items as I possibly can. Then just make sure you equip your quick healing by holding right on the D-pad and selecting your healing items at the bottom. Okay, now that we've set the stage, let's get you through these missions. First, you'll be tasked to infiltrate a building inside the capital, but this whole city is a massive pain to navigate at the best of times, thanks to the hundreds of Inquisitors walking the streets. The best way to complete this objective is to scale and glide across the rooftops, remain unseen, climb into the back of this house through the windows, sneak downstairs, assassinate this guard, and then go through the trapdoor on the ground floor. Running in here while detected will simply lure the guards inside, where they'll then stay, making infiltration really difficult. Once you've gone down to the basement and cleared out the soldiers, simply go back out the way you came and escape the confines of the city. You'll then receive a new quest marker far to the east. This is for the Bastier boss fight. When you get close to the location, you can either join in on the nearby battle at the gates or run straight past it all and into the cutscene trigger to start the Bastier fight. Not only is Bastier tanky, but he's got a bunch of hard-hitting combos, many of which include various fire effects or explosions on the ground which leave behind hot spots that can burn you. Some of his stronger attacks not only explode, but also send explosions forward in a line as well. As a rule then, it's best to dodge sideways when close to his attacks, as this keeps you safe from both the weapon and also the elemental effects most reliably. Getting your hits in can be a bit tricky here, but we've got a couple of tricks up our sleeve. One is the Smiting Strike, R1 plus R2 charged combo ability, which gives us super armor to tank a few hits if we start charging it early enough. Bastier likes to get some distance and then charge forward, and I always used the moment of his approach as my cue to start charging this attack. You won't always avoid getting hit with this method, and it does use a lot of spirit, so it's not always the best, but it does a decent bit of damage and also stagger. When trying to break Bastier's defense normally, Holy Explosion with R1 plus X is the way to go. Bastier regularly shields against your attacks, but this one skill can reliably break through his defense, leaving him open to subsequent strikes, and it only costs a bit of stamina. With liberal use of this skill, you should be able to lower his health, at which point you should discover his second phase.
Behold, I am his chosen one.
Once he turns into Awakened Bastier, the fight will change substantially. Dodging becomes even more crucial than before, as he will send an onslaught of attacks your way via his many phantoms. This phase is less about trying to break his defense, and more about trying to take advantage of small openings to get some powerful hits in. Heavy attacks and Holy Explosion are good go-tos here, as they're relatively quick to execute while dishing out a decent bit of damage. You can also use your R1 plus Triangle Stab ability to close the distance if you're a bit far away. Just don't overcommit by spamming your attacks, because you need to be ready to dodge again when he strikes back. With all this in mind, you should be in the clear to take this cursed knight down and wrap up Chapter 8. You'll soon be able to control Cliff again and get back to your old skills and abilities. Although you may want to reset your skill tree again in order to do this. For more help with Crimson Desert, including tips regarding boss fights, key side quests, and help with difficult puzzles, you can check out our ever-evolving wiki. And for all other things gaming and more, stick with IGN.